Okay, folks, hello. My name's Sandra Ash, and I'm a founder member of Epsom St Helier Hospital. I want to tell you a little bit about how we got to where we are now, why it's happening. People keep asking why are they doing this to our hospital. So I thought if I give you a bit of background, you might understand the process. A couple of things. There's two people I'm going to mention. One's a local enemy and one's a national enemy of our local and national health services. And when I say their name, I want to play a little game with you. When I say either their names, I'd be very pleased if you, tonight and any time you hear those two names in the future, just did a quick boo. Okay? So those two names are, we've got Daniel Elkerles, the man who always tells the truth, and Simon Stevens, who's a little bit better at it, but similarly is economical with the truth. So Simon Stevens? Wonderful. Daniel Elkerles? Yeah! You might want to reserve your bigger boos for Simon Stevens, because Daniel Elkerles is doing what Simon Stevens tells him to. Okay, he's doing what Simon says. Okay. Back in 2014, Simon Stevens was made the head of our NHS. The government are no longer legally responsible for providing us with an NHS. You will not have been told that on the BBC, you will not have been told that in your newspaper. That's a fact. Health and Social Care Act, the government is no longer legally responsible for providing us with an NHS. It is now run by a quango. And the man who runs that quango is Simon Stevens. Now, where does he come from? He's an Englishman. He worked for many years advising Tony Blair on health policy. Then he went over to America and then started working for a company called United Health. United Health is the biggest private insurance company in America and probably in the world. Simon Stevens became the president of global outreach. In other words, selling United Health private healthcare to the world. In 2014, they put him in charge of our NHS. And he set about disorganising it immediately. 2015, he put out an instruction 2 days before Christmas, so nobody would notice, it didn't get reported, sent out instructions to all the health service in the country, saying that he was dividing up our National Health Service into 44 areas or footprints. Our footprint is called South West London, and there are 43 others. And he instructed those NHS groups that they had 6 months to come up with a plan to cut £23 billion from NHS expenditure. Now, you didn't read that in the papers either. Now, this 23 billion, to put it into perspective, at that time the NHS was costing about £110 billion a year. And he wanted a cut of £23 billion. You start realising quite what's going wrong with our NHS now. So each of these organisations had to come up with a plan. Very difficult, virtually impossible thing to do. Our area had to save £1 billion, more than their fair share, £1 billion of cuts. NHS, Simon Stevens, very helpfully gave them a list of things they could do to achieve those cuts. He told them that they could stop the number of people going into hospital. They could halve it. Those people don't need to be in hospital. Cut the prescriptions. People don't need these prescriptions. You will have read in the paper they were stopping providing paracetamol, but they were stopping providing much more important and vital drugs too, and ones that were very, very expensive to buy over the counter. He told them that doctors must stop prescribing those things. He also said they must stop referring people for treatments. And the government has produced a list of about 23 treatments and procedures that are very difficult, if not impossible, to get now. And each of the regions were allowed to add their own list of treatments that would be impossible. These include small things like hip replacements, knee replacements, cataract operations, varicose vein operations, tonsillectomies, carpal tunnel treatments, a whole list of treatments. And somewhere on these boards, I've displayed some of those treatments that the NHS, that doctors are almost banned from referring people for, and they've got referral companies sitting over the top of GPs deciding whether the GP is allowed to make that referral or give that prescription. They are being controlled and stopped from doing it. The big things, however, though they could save money, was by cutting clinics, cutting services, cutting acute services, cutting maternity, closing hospitals. That was the big way to save money. Our area decided it was going to do all that. Cut prescriptions, cut treatments, cut admissions to hospitals, and also they came up with a plan, and it's up there, you can see it, you can read it online yourself. I've put the cover up and the highlights. Their plan was that in southwest London, we've got 5 major acute hospitals. By acute, we mean A&E, maternity, children's services, intensive care, emergency surgery, emergency medicine, coronary care and cancer care. We've got 5, St George's, Epsom, St Helier, Kingston and Croydon. They said we could do with only 4 or even only 3. And they made it clear that St Helier and Epsom were top of the list to go. That's what this is all about. It's not about our local circumstances. It's not about poor hospitals. It's not about we can't get enough staff. It's about fulfilling this plan to save the cut £1 billion of our spending. They will try and flam you and say that it's all sorts of reasons. It's about money, and it's a deliberate cut in our money. Sir Bruce Keogh, another government advisor to the Health Service, laid out the plan, and he said when he made this plan that of the 225 acute hospitals in England at that time, he thought they could reduce it to between 40 and 70 major acute hospitals in the whole of England. That's their plan. Where are we? Dr. Taj Hassan, who at that time was the president of the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, when these plans were announced, they were called sustainability and transformation plans, he said that these plans were potentially catastrophic and that people will die. The British Medical Association has protested about the cutting of the 4-hour wait times. All sorts of services are now not coping with the numbers. We have the fewest beds per 1,000 population than any developed country in the world. We have only 2 beds for every 1,000 people in the population. Japan has got 15 beds per 1,000. France and Germany got 6 and 8. England's got 2.8 actually. We locally have only got 2. And if they follow this plan, we will have about half a bed per 1,000 people. And you know how difficult it is to get into hospital now, how difficult and how long you have to wait for acute services, for A&E, for maternity, children's care, all of those things. They're going to reduce us to about half a bed per 1,000 people. And they also plan, if they ever build this new unit, that half of the rooms will be private or single. And they're interchangeable when they're telling us about it. So half of those beds could be private beds. So you and I could end up with a quarter of a bed per 1,000 people. And if they take those hospitals away, 700,000 of us will be looking for acute services in the adjacent hospitals. Anyone in Epsom will have to go into East Surrey, and anyone served by St Helier will have to go to St George's, none of which are coping now. This is a dangerous plan, and we need to oppose it and stop it before thousands, literally thousands of us die for lack of treatment. Thank you.
A new hospital is not on offer in this plan. Instead, this plan offers the loss of one or both of our existing acute hospitals. We need more hospitals, not fewer. If, like us, you think we need to retain the 2 general acute hospitals we already have, you might like to sign our petition at koshh.org/petition. Let's keep our local acute hospital services. Your life may literally depend upon it. Thanks for watching, and please share this video to let more people know about it.